Welcome to the first season of Failing Our Way to Success, a podcast all about how success in business is not a ladder that is climbed slowly and steadily, but more akin to a web of events, some good, plenty bad, and everything in between, where you just hold on tight and keep going despite the odds. I'm your host, Helena Baker, and I've been in business almost all of my professional life. First as a fairly average copywriter, and now running English-speaking networking. To celebrate the 5th year of ESN, in this season I'm interviewing 5 business owners with more than 5 employees who've been in business for more than 5 years. With no BS, these episodes will explore how failure only defines you if you let it, and actually how it is an unavoidable part of any business story. Hello and welcome to Failing Our Way to Success, a podcast about how failures are a part of business life and don't need to define us, but help us become the business leaders we were meant to be. Today our guest is Xoli from Cafe Xoho. Xoli Ormut Durbin, I pronounced that correctly, as owner at beloved Tel Aviv institution and coffee shop Cafe Xoho. When I decided upon the theme of this podcast, Xoli was first on my list. Having opened in 2010, Xoli has dignifiedly weathered Suketan, COVID, and the most recent war, all whilst gradually expanding the business. Starting in a small space of 40 square meters, they've since moved twice to their now forever home on Ben Yehuda of 160 square meters. So much more than a coffee shop. Cafe Xoho is a safe space for Olim from all over the world. Xoli herself is from Hong Kong, and they allow them to enjoy delectable foods, unique drinks, and feel at home. Not only is Xoli a tremendous menu creator and business owner, having known her for a while, I can attest to her grace, integrity, and intent. Xoli, it's a tremendous pleasure to welcome you to Failing Our Way to Success.
Thank you. Hope I don't disappoint.
Definitely not. So Cafe Xoho has been going for 14 years.
14 and a half years. Yeah.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to start Cafe Xoho and what it was like in kind of the beginning.
So I'm a bit of a mutt, you could say. I was born in Hong Kong. I lived in Australia. I have Canadian parents, and then I came to Israel. When I lived in Australia briefly for a few years during university, I worked in many different establishments in the hospitality industry. It could be anything from high-end wine, cocktail, jazz bar to the local pizza place. And I just discovered that I just love it. I love hospitality. I love serving people. I love knowing the customer's name. I love making an experience for people. I like to host people. When I decided to make Aliyah, I found myself without language, without friends, without community, and no local place that I could call my place. No one that served the food I was missing from Australia. It was all just kind of the same, and something was missing. So I really felt, especially for the Anglo community, people like me who make Aliyah, that there was really a niche that was really not being addressed, like a niche market. And that's why I opened the cafe.
That's fantastic. I want to go back a little bit because I think you being raised in Hong Kong is quite interesting. I think it's fairly rare to say. Were you part of the Jewish community there?
I was. I don't come from a religious family at all, but my father was on the board of the synagogue and he was very involved in the security specifically of the synagogue. He's worked in China for many years. And I grew up around that. We used to go to shul on Saturday, like just a kind of a community feeling. And I very much identified as Jewish, even though I was in a school of like 2,500 children that was 10 stories high because it's Hong Kong. And I was at one point the only Jew there. So that was also like an interesting way to grow up. There was a Jewish school in Hong Kong, but I was 1 year ahead of it. So I could never actually go to the Jewish school.
It's interesting to me that you grew up in a place where you were essentially an outsider. I don't know how you felt. Did you feel like that growing up?
I think that at the time I did not, but looking back, I realized that I did because for the first time in my life, I feel home in Israel. And I don't remember having that feeling in Hong Kong because as much as I learned Mandarin and I had local friends and I was dating a Filipino guy and I was like, I was ingrained in the culture, still I was like, I didn't look like the locals and I was... You know, I grew up in an international bubble, in an international British school. I used to have a very British accent. I never felt like it was my place. It's a fantastic place to grow up. I'm very lucky I grew up there. I was exposed to many, many things, good and bad, that I would not have been exposed otherwise if I had grown up in the suburbs of Canada, because that's where my parents were from. So I'm grateful, but it was not home. And neither was Australia. Australia was a fantastic, fantastic opportunity and experience, but it wasn't home. It was far away from everything I loved and knew. So here I feel home. I'm not an outsider here.
In creating Cafe Xoho, and how long after you made Aliyah did you start Cafe Xoho?
Like a bit over a year.
Wow, that's
it was very brave, very dumb, maybe. I was young. I was 22 when I opened
really
Cafe Xoho. I hadn't done the world travel. I had just finished a degree in graphic design in Australia.
Wow.
I didn't have the language. I had like some distant family here, but no direct family. It was challenging. Yeah.
I've spoken to, you're kind of my fourth interview now, and everyone I've spoken to kind of agrees that when you start a business, you have to go in with this knowledge that it will succeed. And you could say whether it's stupidity, whether it's bravery, it's a thin line. It's kind of hard to measure that. When you first arrived in Israel, did you immediately feel at home?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. There was nothing here that made me feel at home. I'd been here many, many times on holiday. I had been here on a kibbutz program. I understood, I thought, the culture, but when you actually move here, then you actually understand that it's like just nothing that you know, especially without the language. I was very lost, and I really, really did not. I hated my first year here. Everybody knows, Mr. Apnim, trying to change your car license, everything here is a mess, and it just feels like the country doesn't want you here. And that's exactly why I opened Cafe Xoho. To create a community.
Was it a shock to you when you arrived in Israel, having come from Hong Kong where you were an outsider, and from Australia where you'd come from Hong Kong and then gone to Australia, which again, you were an outsider, to come here where you felt, okay, this is where I belong, and suddenly to feel actually here I also feel like an outsider?
So I actually didn't say that when I first came. The reason I came is because my parents told me they were considering to make Aliyah. And I was about to be putting my roots down in Australia because even though I'm not Australian, I had spent now 3 years there. I'd made connections. Friends had become family. It's my language, sort of. Australian is sort of like English.
Yeah, no.
And I was like considering pursuing hospitality there. But when I heard they were going to make Aliyah, I thought, okay, how can I be across the world in such an extreme distance from my immediate family? I'm very, very close with my family. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go and even go there before they make Aliyah to try to see if I could make it work. So that was the reason.
There's something very interesting to the fact that you were kind of always a little bit the outsider. Obviously, you had friends, but you were a little bit outsider. And then you arrived in Israel and kind of were like, this is where I'm going to live forever. And so I'm going to make a home. And that's Cafe Xoho. That was the home you decided to make.
Yeah. I didn't arrive here and right away say, this is going to be my home. I came and said, I want to see if I can make this work. And only when I opened the cafe, even though there were many hardships, but in building that community, which was the whole point of Xoho, that we never meant to be a restaurant. I opened the place to be coffee and cake and a place for friends to meet. And it grew from there because I attracted very good people that were kind of on the same journey as me, trying to figure themselves out in Israel. Yeah.
Do you have people who came to the coffee shop when it first opened and who still come to
this
day?
Yes, very much so. Even people who since then left the country, and every time they're here on holiday, they make sure to stop by or we meet outside of the cafe. I have developed many meaningful relationships over the last 14 and a half years.
That's really beautiful to hear.
With workers and customers. Yeah.
And I should say that we are big fans of Cafe Xoho.
Thank
and actually,
you.
I don't know if you remember this, but you catered my morning of my wedding.
Yeah.
And your staff came down. You had it was during peak Omicron, really serious COVID. And your staff, everyone had been exposed. And so you called me and you were so lovely and warm and you were so stressed. And there was so much going on. It was very not stressful for me, but for you were very stressed. And you were like, and you made a beautiful bagels and it was really stunning. And we
try to do everything.
And it's important. And I think, like you say, for Xoho is so much more than a coffee shop for me to cater. The day of my wedding, obviously not the meal, but the morning with my friends, I think Xoho imbues all of that. So you want that energy on the morning. I think it really comes across everything that you've done. In the first few years, I mean, you're very far removed from that. But in the first few years, I'd love to hear kind of what your biggest challenge was.
Wow, I think language would be one of the major ones because I really didn't speak Hebrew. So it was just like to be a person that I consider myself a very capable person and to be made to feel dumb or just be shown no respect by suppliers because I'm a woman and because it's not my language. It was a recurring theme. And that was very frustrating because I was just trying to make it work. So that was like, I think, one of the most major challenges. I also did not have experience running a business or a restaurant. I had experience as a waitress, as a barista.
You were 22.
I was young. I was a child.
Experience doing it that age.
Yeah, I was a child. But I had a very, very good work ethic. I always had. But the biggest challenge was that. And the biggest challenge, and still is today from day one, is staffing. In the beginning, we had 2 staff members, one of which is my now husband, who was like a co-owner who I within 1 year asked to leave the business. That's a story for another time.
A good decision.
But we went from 2 staff members to today I have 45.
Wow.
So, and it didn't matter if there were 2 or there were 45. My biggest love and my biggest success, but also my hardest part of my job is staffing. To keep people happy, to keep people in line, to keep people on board. It's very, very hard in the face of working. Like it's difficult.
Very, very brave.
Yeah.
And the companies have HR just to deal with that alone.
I could have an HR. I am the HR department at Xoho, and it's really like I could actually give someone that role one day.
It's an all-encompassing job to itself.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little to the language. I think it's very interesting when people make Aliyah, that I think there's kind of 2 camps, one of which is like, I'm going to learn the language and I'm going to do this. And the other camp is kind of like, not going to learn. I can't learn languages. It's too hard. I'm just not going to do it. Which isn't to disrespect anyone. That's just been my experiences and all that. Do you feel that moving here, you kind of need to learn Hebrew? Or do you think as a business owner for you, it's specifically important?
Listen, I think that you cannot be happy in a country unless you get immersed in the culture. I have so much fun speaking in Hebrew. I have so much fun getting and speaking in the way that the locals do. And I have to deal with a technician for the good or the bad, or I have to be angry, or I have to be happy. It's so much more fun doing it in the language of the person. Like, I feel like if you don't, language is the biggest part of culture, in my opinion. How can I possibly feel at home here if I don't speak the language? And I totally understand that people move here, they get high-tech jobs. Many of my staff, Zoho's a Tachanat Aliyah, and then they move later and they work in high-tech. But it's just not, you can't enjoy the best parts of this culture if you don't speak the language, in my opinion. And as a business owner, probably I could have made it work in English all these years, or Russian or Arabic. If people speak those languages, many of my staff are Russian and they get away just fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I just don't think for me, it wouldn't lead to the success, or any success you think I've had until today would not be possible without Hebrew, in my opinion.
Interesting. Really interesting. I really like what you said about the fun. I've never thought of it that way, which is so crazy because for me, speaking Hebrew is very important. And I guess it speaks to my personality that never occurred to me that you're right. It is just more fun. I never thought, it's just a nice way of putting it. It's really beautiful.
Also, in order to not feel a guest in this country, I need to be a part of this country.
That part of feeling at home. I think for you, that's such a key theme of your life.
It's very, very important. Also, now I'm a mother. I have a daughter. She's in Gan. What am I going to do? Ask the Gan to communicate with me in English? No, I have to speak with them on their level, in their language. So
I have to ask, have you had anyone famous in the cafe?
Many, so many.
Name drop.
Of recent times, Michael Rappaport.
Stop.
Wonderful, wonderful man.
He was nice?
He and his wife, Kimmy, at the cafe all the time.
Really?
Every time he's in Israel, he's at the cafe.
I'm a big celebrity person. You got to tell me.
And he's just such a heart. He is the biggest advocate for Israel during these difficult times. And I always try to give him something on the house. He never wants it. Like, just to thank him for all of his effort and time he puts into advocating for Israel. He comes a lot.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so he's one. We've had many. I can't even think of all of them. We had recently Matisyahu was at the cafe. He came a few times. We had Netta, the famous singer. She goes to a clinic near us, and she's fabulous. We love her. She's a really lovely woman.
Yeah.
Matisyahu was also very nice. We had recently Israeli celebrity Niv Gilboa. He did a piece on us about our bagels. He's a food critic.
Wow.
That I was told was very rough, but he actually was very, very nice. And he came with a very famous woman called Lihi. I don't know. We have all the time people coming to Xoho. I think we're on the map in a way. Yeah.
Did those, when the celebrities come and if you publish about it or they publish about it, it's obviously very glamorous, but it's interesting. Does it really lead to kind of leads or more clients coming through the doors?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not a person that gets excited by famous people. It's not like Michael Rappaport walked in and I was like, oh my God.
That would have been
I was
me.
more just impressed. Well, many people ran up to him to get his
I would
autograph.
have been first in line.
Every time, he never has a quiet lunch at Xoho because he always comes in the lunch rush. And I always tell him, Michael, you're coming at the wrong time. But I don't get excited by famous people. To me, they're just regular people. But for sure, I think it has given us a boost. People hear about us, they see us on the stories, and then they want to come by and give it a go.
And before we move on to your failures, I have to ask another question. I would love, and obviously not saying any names, but I would just love to hear what is the rudest, just most craziest customer that to this day has stuck with you as just what on earth?
Oh my God. There's so many. Wow, I just I actually, wow, you really put me on the spot.
Sorry.
So many. I can't say names.
Yeah, of course.
And
No,
I
that's-
couldn't really think like specifically of like a specific situation because we've had so many. But we've had customers come and be like just very, very, very unacceptable behavior specifically towards our staff. And I've had to ask people on several occasions, please, you really don't have to pay for your bill. I would just like to ask you to leave.
Really?
And this has happened on many occasions over the years. Not many, not every week. But yeah, we've had people leave, and then we've also had like the odd homeless person. There was a woman who picked me up by my neck basically and like threw me on the ground, spat in my manager's face. We've had lots of things happen at the cafe. It's a people place, so crazy things happen all the time.
I was in Chelsea, a closed charity shop in South Tel Aviv, and a woman walked in naked, like a homeless woman.
Yeah, that's happened at Xoho before.
I think it might be this. I think she.
Yeah, it's happened. I'm not like so excited by those things anymore. Like it's very hard to break my patience. So if I ask someone to leave the cafe, that means like you really like went above and beyond. And then of course we had in August a certain type of people that the cafe was very full with a certain type of people. I'm not going to say who, and their behavior was also very difficult. So when we need to, we ask people to leave, but try not to go there.
And thank you so much for sharing that. I think that was, I know you and I've been lucky enough to hear you speak many times, and we've shared a stage a few times, but I think for people who don't know, you have such an interesting backstory, and it's beautiful. Everything kind of leads to Xoho in this kind of like very nice path. We're going to move to your failures. You were generous enough to send me 5, but we're going to do 3 today. Failure number 1, which even on the car ride over, I feel how hard this is for you, is not delegating.
Yeah. It's a big problem, I think, for most like self-made business owners.
Yes.
It's a big problem.
It's been 14 years.
Yeah.
Has it improved?
It's definitely improved,
Okay.
but I think that's all due to my daughter, because when you become a mother or a parent, you don't actually have the same hours in the day that you used to. You just don't. They don't physically exist. Now, I do work crazy hours. Sometimes I'm at my computer till 2 a.m. Ask my husband, he can confirm. And it's a big, but when you become a parent, you just can't give as much. You have to be at your business less. You have to give few hours. So it has helped with the delegation because there literally wasn't a choice. I was telling you on the way over that my daughter also came a month early. So all those things that were on the list had to then be delegated because I had this surprise land in my lap, basically. So it is better than before. But I think I'm still pretty terrible at the delegation because it comes from a place of love and care for the very thing that I built. So I do cover a lot or do things I shouldn't be doing that I could pass on to any number of managers that work for me. I'm a very empathetic person. I like to help. When I see someone struggling, I always jump in. But in the end, I walk home then with like 0 for myself. So it's something I'm trying to learn, but you'll still see me in shifts sometimes.
I've seen you in shifts for sure.
Yeah, and that's really bad because there's a lot of things that need to be done that you don't see. So I should not be in shifts. But like I said, it comes from a place of love and care for my business and for my staff. So
have you kind of tried any tools that just didn't work for you in terms of releasing that control?
Yeah, very soon I'm going to be using one of those tools because I'm just going into another period of my personal business life in which I need to take some distance. So the tools will be, for example, exiting certain WhatsApp groups, trying to be a little bit like less in every single WhatsApp group. Like there's like 40.
There's
Cafe
40?
Xoho. If I had to count.
Why so many?
I don't know if there's exactly 40, but there's like a lot. You have like management groups, general management groups, full, individual. There's like many groups of front, back of house. Like there's a lot going on in Xoho. Special orders groups, catering groups. Like there's like many things.
Wow.
And so I need to take a step back. And I will, because I do have very capable management, but also just like every business, we're weathering the storm. Certain managers have to go to Miluim. These are things that in other countries, they don't have to deal with it. And here we have to deal with that from tomorrow, a manager can be in Miluim. What am I supposed to do? Like somebody has to do their job and until they get back. And that's me. So I'm trying, but it's something I'm really not good at. Really not good.
Do you feel a bit burnt out?
All the time.
Yeah.
Especially since, I would say since Corona, being a business owner, I want to say especially the restaurant industry, but it's the only industry I know, so maybe that's wrong.
I think that's true to say.
But since Corona, I would say that I am like a very burnt out individual. I also moved my business to a new location, which I was basically the project manager with an existing working business while 2 managers left, and I broke my foot, and it was Corona, and I had a 2-year-old at home. So it's safe to say I'm burnt out, but not enough to stop. Like I'm very tired, but I'm like still try to wake up every morning and do it with love.
How many hours do you sleep a night?
Like 5 to 6.
It's funny,
like max.
On the way here, you said to me that your daughter doesn't need that much sleep, and I think I now know where she gets it from.
Yeah, she has a lot of energy and she has a lot of fun.
You guys, you just seem kind of like capable of doing things that I wouldn't say. I mean, I could not do that. I really couldn't. I would break.
I don't need a lot of sleep, but I also only have 1 child. Like if that changes one day, I will probably need like more hours to sleep.
Wow, that is okay. So the delegating, have you had kind of any horror stories from delegating, or it really just comes from that sense of not being able to let go?
I have. Listen, there's been moments where we've like, let's say, done a catering or something where everything went wrong because I didn't get involved. There's been like, terrible customer reviews because, I don't know, something wasn't staffed properly a certain day. It's always not perfect. We do our best, but, it's not a robotic business. It's still a people's-based business. I can't think right now of like a complete disaster because I was just usually always there. Like many disasters have happened at Xoho that I've kind of like put out the fires. But I think that's the problem. Like I have to learn to delegate so that other people can just use their tools and their mind to fix the problems and it not always be me. But if I've not been on site, I've always been extremely available. So I think usually the problems don't get to that point because I've just like been either in touch or on site.
When was the last time you took a holiday?
I take holidays. Yeah. I'm just like in touch. This year in Pesach, we went to Scotland, me, my husband, and my daughter, a road trip, and we didn't have phone signal for a large part of that time. So they just had to manage. Luckily, there were no major disasters. And
they did manage.
There were no like major terrible disasters. There were some small ones. But they managed, like in the end, anything can happen. I could not be here tomorrow, God forbid.
God forbid.
And
it's
people
really just
figure it out.
Letting it go.
Letting it go wrong, letting it fail a little bit. It's just something that's very hard for me, but I need to learn at some point.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking about having a second child. So I think like that is the thing that will help me to be like, I can. Yeah.
It's a lot. It really, I mean, I talk to you and I'm just like, how are you still standing? Honestly, like
I don't know. I cry a lot. It helps.
I mean, doesn't surprise me. If you weren't, I'd be worried.
Yeah, it helps.
Together,
I'm a firm supporter of crying.
Wow.
Cry it out.
I think it's such an important part of being a business owner and of being a person to just be able to really be in touch with your emotions and say, I just need to cry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think I found I cried a lot at the beginning, really a lot. I really built resilience of just kind of being like, it's a very different business from what you do, but nothing's the end of the world. Like kind of everything's come backable from.
It feels like that a lot of the time, but I think that that sometimes we have to realize that it's not, especially in the situation Israel is in right now.
Yeah, really not.
And I think it's not right to always say you should compare yourself to the suffering of someone else, but I think that we need to all understand a second that like things going on with our businesses are literally not the end of the world.
And I hear that. I think it's a difficult balance because I don't think anyone's pain is less because of what's going on. I think it does add perspective. But we should also, it doesn't make your challenges any less because they are real and you do deserve to be happy and to have a fulfilled life and to be able to have that second child that you so want. I think it's okay. Your feelings are valid. Do you cry less now than you did at the start?
I cry less now in this time because there's no time to actually cry.
It's a luxury.
I actually feel that the move to the new location, it was so hard. It was so beyond hard, so beyond ridiculous. That I'm hardened.
Really?
I'm so tough now. The challenges of the move were so much more than the whole of the first 12 years put together.
Really?
It was like a year of absolute, like, unacceptable situations, one after another. And I was largely on my own without much management at all. So I really think that from that, I'm so capable now to handle so much that I just cry less. It takes a lot to get me to that point.
Yeah.
And I do. But it happens a lot less because I just don't have time and I'm just like things excite me less because I've just literally been there, done that.
And it's finding that balance as a business owner, that not letting the highs get you too high and the lows not too like every day is a roller coaster, and some days are very for you every day probably really is a roller coaster actually.
In order to be a mother during this time, I can't let, and it has gotten to me, but I'm trying more and more to not let it get to me so much, because I have to also be a mother.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like, and a wife as well. Yeah. My poor husband has to like weather the storm with me. So I just try to be a bit more like calm about all the situations. It's a real luxury
being able to cry and feeling it.
Absolutely,
it's a luxury.
yeah. And you need time as well. Like I have this long day. Like, when is the time? There is a time to do it. So
I wanted to ask you how having the business had affected your relationship with your husband and then your marriage, but also I guess for you started dating after you opened the business, so it's always been a part of your partnership.
Yeah. Well, essentially, he's my best friend. We met 20 years ago on kibbutz when he was on the way to the army and I was here just traveling.
Beautiful story.
And we're just friends, only friends. And then I went to Australia, he stayed here. And when I came back, he was like essentially my only friend in Israel. And we were just that. And
I'm sure one of you must have had an inkling.
Not me.
I'm sure
maybe
he
him.
did. I'm sure.
But we were both seeing other people for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And then I approached him to open Xoho because I just felt like he could use a change. And we were
you
both
decided what was good for him.
He's a lawyer, so I'm not sure it was really for him. And then I discovered like very quickly into the business that like hospitality was not for him. He's a very charismatic and charming person, but like not for hospitality. It's not for everybody, and it's 100% for me. I love it. I truly love hospitality.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, like, and then I kicked him out, and then a few months later, we started dating.
Who initiated?
Him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And how has having, I mean, I'm sure in a lot of ways, but how has having Cafe Xoho affected your relationship and partnership?
It's very hard. Like, a lot of the time, I think it feels for him that Cafe Xoho is my first priority, and it certainly looks that way, and probably is a lot of the time. Of course, if God forbid something happened, I would put Xoho to the side. But running a restaurant is an all-encompassing thing, so it's very hard for me to switch off. And like I said, this holiday in Scotland this year was one of the first times that, because I physically didn't have klita, like actual connection to phone. So there were hours that we were really having the experience together, and I wasn't actually like on call.
Was that a nice feeling for you, or was it anxiety provoking?
Actually, being physically out of the country made it a nice feeling. If we're in Israel, it's anxiety provoking, because then it almost feels like there's an option for me to go there, make a call, fix it. But if I'm like physically removed and I can't actually do anything, so it helped a lot. And I ended up enjoying the holiday very much.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Have you thought about kind of giving yourself an hour or two a day where you just turn off on airplane mode, or you just?
I really try, and I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I want to.
Please God, I really hope for you. No, I really do.
I
think that you deserve that. You deserve that break.
Thank you.
You're super. And we're going to move to failure number 2, which is trying to save money. Which I'm really happy that you shared this. Not that you've had the struggle, but I think it's something that every business owner struggles with. I don't think any business owner at the beginning is cash rich. And I'd love for you to talk to me more about what that means and how it's affected you and why you consider it a failure.
So I'm not a business owner who tries to save money. Usually I'm a firm believer in spending money to make money. I always made those decisions before, without the blessing of the accountant. I always did that. But there were a couple of times that I made a decision either because somebody else told me that this is the way to do it, or because I thought, so the first example would be Walt. I was like anti-Walt. I was like, number one business owner, anti-Walt. I don't need it. I don't want it. And then Corona. And then we had no lifeline to our customers. And I joined Walt very late, September 2020. It's very late because Corona started in March. And I was with a newborn at home. She was 3 months old when Corona started. And it was a complete disaster. First of all, we had no lifeline to our customers. Sometimes we could only do takeaway. It was very, very bad for Xoho. And then when I finally joined, it like picked up, and then we developed. Today, I think our Walt profile is very sexy and very nice. And I think we do a lot of business on Walt.
Yeah. What percentage of business do you do?
Walt is about like, on some days it can be up to 30% of our business. On other days, 20-25%, and that's a lot. Like we are growing our store. Yeah, like our store
less by
items.
the war also because it's Israelis and.
I think the Walt is just growing all the time because we always like update our photos, update our products, like we're adding like cakes and things for Shabbat and stuff. So like
cool.
Walt is like becoming more like our online store. But I was like trying to save money, but in the end, it also meant we didn't have this like whole pool of revenue to pull from. So it was a mistake not to join Walt early on, but I fixed that mistake relatively quickly by September 2020.
But was it so much? It doesn't sound to me. How much percentage do they take? Are you comfortable sharing that?
Walt takes 25%.
Oh, it's
before
high.
mom. So that's nearly 30%. And for pickup, 10%. So that's like a lot. That's a lot. It basically means that you don't really make money on Walt. Because I also still have the labor of the hands making the items. So Walt, unless you reach a certain volume, is not profitable.
Really?
Walt is shivuk. Walt is marketing. You get your product out there. People love it. They say, yeah, let's go eat at Xoho tomorrow. But in Corona, it was just our lifeline. In Corona, Walt also, for certain periods of time, reduced the percentage greatly to help businesses.
They should.
They were very. I am now the biggest supporter. I'm a convert. I love Walt.
How do their fees compare to kind of similar things in Hutzlar? It's like Deliveroo. Is it kind of all the similar?
I don't know. I've never run a business anywhere else.
Sounds very high to me.
It's very high, but the reason I understood it was my mistake was also because during Corona, I tried to do deliveries myself with a newborn in the back of the car, and it was such a balagan, also receiving the orders, putting them on chart, calling to take payments, like everything. That now when I look at that 30%, I'm like,
it makes sense.
Walt does that with the click of a button. And it's on the customer not to make the mistake. They press the button, they order. It's not me who's like putting it in and could make a mistake because of human error. There's no human error. It's an app. You order what you want. You made a mistake, your problem, you talk to Walt. So now I'm a big supporter of Walt because I did that. I did what Walt does manually with a newborn in the back of the car for months, and it was a complete nightmare. Absolutely horrible.
Was it only money that stopped you joining Walt, or was it also like an ego thing of I can do it by myself and a control thing as well?
It was the, oh my God, they take 30%
really
that I couldn't come to terms with.
I mean, it's a lot of
and
money.
It was also, I'm like a very like eco person. I still am today. I try my best. I was the first one to join OPA Israel.
Tell me what OPA is.
It's a company that has like reusable containers.
Oh, amazing.
And they're like washed in certain locations. But when we became kosher, I couldn't work with them anymore because the containers could essentially go between all the restaurants. But before we became kosher, it was an amazing thing that, you know, customers could join this and pay a little more to get a container that's then going to be washed and reused. So still for me today, that's very hard with Walt. And I try to make good decisions with our packaging, like more paper, less plastic. But yeah, that was like another thing that really like I hated about Walt and kind of still don't like today, if I'm honest.
Well, you understand more where they're coming from.
Yeah. And OPA also closed and does not operate in Israel anymore. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, there weren't enough people that cared about the environment in this country.
For a whole other,
Another podcast, yeah.
I'm with you, and I'm really with you on that. And I really try and make personal choices. Not that it's enough because it needs to be at a much higher level, but I really understood that. You've mixed two failures together, so we're gonna
Sorry
go
about that.
That's totally it's not a problem at all. I'm just aware. Are you okay for me to take another failure?
Yeah, sure.
But you also wanted to talk about the renovation project. You did.
The renovation was another failure in terms of saving money, which I'll explain now. Which was that my project.
Wait, I need to like intro it.
Intro it, yeah.
And then, then we might do another failure because you've mixed two together. Are you comfortable talking about
any of them?
You don't want to talk about the small side business.
I don't mind.
You do because I think it's interesting, Dafka.
Okay.
Because I think it's really relatable. If people if you're a business owner, you're already in that mindset of opening, so why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Hold on, I just need to correct myself.
So the intro was about
so you're a member of Walt. So now you're a member of Walt.
Yeah.
And that was obviously the right decision.
Yes.
Essentially.
And I love Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great customer service. Like, of course, mistakes, human error, but in general, I'm very happy. Yeah.
I've got to tell you, we've just moved to Givat Shmuel now, and we lived in Tel Aviv for 5 years, where Walt is exceptional.
Yeah.
In Givat Shmuel, it's not quite as quick. You're going to be shocked to hear.
Yeah.
You're not getting the food in kind of like half an hour.
Yeah.
It can take much longer.
Yeah.
But yes, no, I think, it's really nice to hear, I think, that you had the humility to say, actually, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you fixed it.
Oh, I say it a lot. I'm wrong all the time.
I think as a business owner, you have
to be dynamic. You have to accept your failures.
If you don't, you're just going to fail.
Yeah. And I even say this to my staff. I'll be like, I might not be right, but this is the way I'm doing it. Like, this is my way or the highway. Okay. And I may not be right. And I'm also happy to listen. I may even change. I may even make a decision to say, you were right. It happens a lot. I'm a very open business owner.
You're like a benevolent dictator. Would that be accurate?
Okay, sure.
I know, I'm asking you.
Yeah,
You tell me.
I'm really, really, really open to criticism, new ideas, and that's why Xoho is a very dynamic business, and I think that's why we've weathered all the storms you listed in the introduction, because I'm extremely dynamic. I'm so open to all the ideas, and I can't think of everything myself. I'm just one person.
Is there anything you've done that was a mistake that you did because of listening to people?
Yes. So the renovation project, my project manager at the time, who I ended up firing before the end of the project, I'm very like that, as you can see. He recommended that we save money on the budget by not paying for certain specialists, one of them being an aircon system specialist who actually comes and measures the space and tells you what your needs will be. Instead, he wanted to save, I think it was like 30,000 shekels in the scheme of like couple million shekel project. It's nothing.
Everything's
because that's what it was. I didn't know. I was overwhelmed. Newborn at home. Everything I told you. So in the scheme of everything, I should have said no. And we went with a guy who installed an aircon system that's supposed to be like, he's like an internal specialist services. He didn't take the right calculations. Today, Xoho is not cold enough. I'm actually closing early this evening to do a renovation on the aircon because 2.5 years later, I still have a problem with it. I was in a lawsuit against the guy who installed the aircon.
Really?
He did not receive his full payment. Still today, the aircon doesn't work properly and I have like endless problems with it. So this all came from trying to save money at the advice of someone else. And 2.5 years later, I'm still paying for that problem. So that's like, and then it also ended up that he didn't control the budget properly. And me and him, we failed to control the budget. So my loans that I have to pay back are now much larger today than I should have been. Yeah.
So you say we, do you see that as a joint failure or you see it as him and you were stretched too thin?
Listen, I paid the guy to do a job. He didn't do it well. And I did not have the time to do his job for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not going to point fingers, but I still have the problems today. So it's very difficult.
Before you hired him, were there red flags or he seemed great?
No, he seemed great. But I think I had also experience in renovations before because I already moved to before.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mess. A renovation project is a mess. And now I've learned always when there's like the less expensive option, the medium or the most expensive, I usually choose the most expensive one. I usually don't buy secondhand equipment. I usually don't. I almost never go with the cheaper options because they just give me pain later.
For a restaurant
so
specifically.
I'd rather just like buy it new, do it with the better guy, do it with more expensive guy. So that's usually my decision these days.
Do you still hold kind of a lot of it? It's still fairly recently. You moved a couple of years ago?
2.5 years ago, yeah.
I mean, I remember it, so it was very recent. Do you still feel that kind of like the sadness and it didn't really go how you wanted it to? Does that still sit with you?
Yeah. Yeah, the renovation project actually nearly hospitalized me.
Really?
It was terrible.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, but here we are today, so it's fine.
You will never move again.
No.
Yeah.
Xoho will stay or close.
Yeah.
like this is our final resting place. I can't do it again. Maybe one day in my dreams there would be more small Xoho locations, but I wouldn't move again.
It was too much.
Yeah, it was too much.
And that was because you hired the wrong person. You also had so much going on.
I think it's a combination of everything. I wouldn't put it all in the one guy. I think that it's a difficult thing to do, and with a restaurant that's also still running. So I think it's just a difficult thing. Yeah.
How do you move past that sense of like, wow, this really did not go the way I wanted it to as a business owner?
I think that as much as some things to do with staffing can bring me down, my staff largely bring me up. I have a very fulfilling job. I have only a handful of Israelis on staff who are all really lovely and don't seem like they're not very Israeli, if that makes sense. I love
Israeli listeners.
I love Israelis, but my staff is very international feeling, and I feel a lot of the time very fulfilled in giving them this stop on the way to the next thing they're doing, or for some of them a more forever home. I have people who have been with me for years from everywhere in the world. So I think that part of it fulfills me a lot and brings me up and makes me want to keep doing it a lot of the time. And also the support of customers, amazing people that have been coming since we opened.
It's that community. It's just
a community
for you.
Yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful. And listen, the new space is stunning.
Thank you.
I've never felt to
Not yet where I wanted to be visually, but we're getting there. Yeah.
I've never been too hot there personally.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You didn't come in August.
I did not. I was not in Israel in August. And the toilet's also very nice.
Thank you. We
Beautiful
try.
toilets. We're going to move to your third and final failure, which I found really interesting because to me it seemed a little bit mad, I'll be honest. When you told it to me, I was like, why? That in 2016 you opened a small side business because why not? When you're already... Talk me through what you were in the second location
in Gordon Street, yeah,
which was going well. It was kind of. Did you feel comfortable that like it's running smoothly? We're turning a profit. Everything is good. Put me on your. Oh no, we weren't there. Okay.
No, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
That was also pre-child.
Okay.
So in those years, I was really giving like 18 hours of my day to Cafe Xoho. And of course, me and my husband, we still had a great relationship and we traveled in Passover usually and everything. But I could give like my whole self to the cafe. So when things popped up, I just said yes to everything. So one of my staff members at the time
Wait, I want to just make sure. So the coffee shop had been open now for 4 years? No, longer.
We opened in 2010, so 6 years. Yeah,
you weren't profitable every month.
2 years in Gordon Street, and when we started on Gordon Street, it was at Suketan. So it was like literally during like the war.
So it's a really stressful time for you.
Yeah.
The business is doing okay, but there's still things that need to be worked out. Nothing is seamless. Nothing is. Yeah. I'm just getting into the mindset where you were when you made this.
Oh, it was a complete mess. It was not a time to open any place.
Yeah, I'm easing you in, but I want the audience to understand. So you're already stretched. You're already stressed, and you're already working 12-hour days, if not longer.
12 to 18-hour days, maybe 16 as an average.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, largely on my feet, like in shifts.
Okay, so you're working a physically demanding, challenging job. Is Suketan still going on? My Israeli history is not so good.
I don't remember exactly, but I know that when we moved to the new location, 2014, rocket shells were falling on the location in the month we opened. So suddenly there was no work after an expensive renovation project. So like we just like moved in the month that it started.
So you weren't in the clear. Let's put it that way.
No.
Okay, so we're now in the mindset of Xoli in 2016 without a child, basically.
Yeah.
So life is more relaxed.
Luna arrived in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in 2016. Now over to you. You decide to open a small side business. Are your words, not mine. Talk to me about that decision and what it was, the business.
So basically on Gordon Street, above us was a hostel. It was called Gordon Hostel or something. Right now it's a Dave Hotel, but it used to be a hostel. And there became available a small space. I believe someone had a workshop there. I don't exactly remember. But it was a small space. And someone who worked for me at the time was a highly, highly trained barista and tea specialist from England.
Wow.
A lovely person, very, very responsible, very focused, very good at what she did. And it was kind of like wasted on her to kind of just be a barista at Xoho. And she mentioned to me that she wanted to open a small business, cold brew business.
Oh, cool.
And I love cold brew. And in 2016, there was no cold brew in Israel.
Really?
Like it was not a thing. Maybe kombucha was even getting a bit more well-known. And her cold brew was just fantastic. Like really, I could just drink buckets of it every day. And I really believed in her. And this tiny space opened up and it seemed totally feasible, even though I found out later that it was not. And I thought, yalla, let's do this. Now looking back, I really understand that it was more like coming from this place of wanting to please someone else because that's how I am. Like I now that I have a child, I less make decisions like that because I literally can't. But when I had like all the hours of the day, it was like, why not? It wasn't even just about the money. It was more just like, it was more like, I will make the time for this. This sounds fun. This sounds like it can work.
Was it also a sense of kind of wanting to nurture this Ola who you kind of taken under your wing and, you know, came to you as kind of a mentor?
I really believed in her. Okay. Still today, I think she's a fantastic person.
I mean, she's British, so
she's
must
British.
be.
She must be.
She's my
I actually think she's gone back. We haven't spoken in a long time. The years have flown since Corona, you know.
I mean, 2016 is a long time ago.
It's a long time. But it was definitely not a good idea. Also at the time, the Brown Hotel, I mentioned Dave Hotel, it's from the Brown Hotel network. Okay. They were expanding across the city and they took the hostel and turned it into a hotel. But during that time, they were essentially one of the reasons why the business didn't work because every day dust and sand and everything was falling on the side business and Cafe Xoho. There were weeks at a time where neither of us could open. Wow. So, you know.
Compensation for that?
No.
Really?
Not from the landlord and not from Brown Hotel.
That's terrible. That's like actually.
It's safe to say that Cafe Xoho and Brown Hotel are not friends.
No, but they should have compensated you. That's crazy.
It was a crazy time.
But wait, I want to understand this business. So it's in like, it's not got a shop front, or it does have a shop front.
It had a shop front.
It was like next to Zoho.
Yeah, next to Zoho, there was like a few steps down to what used to be a workshop. And we turned it into like a super, super cute place that was mostly just takeaway with little benches outside. But it was like you had to go down.
Okay.
So like I think one of the problems was when you have a business that has steps up or steps down, you are committing to it. So if you're like shy to go in or talk to the person there, you might be like, I'll just go to Zoho instead. And also, it was really focused on serving only cold brew. And I
Serious niche.
It's a serious niche. It was fantastic, really, but there wasn't enough volume and not enough people wanted it. So that was essentially one of the main reasons why it ended up not working.
Why didn't you just sell cold brew at Cafe Xoho? You just didn't have the capacity.
We didn't really have the space to prepare it.
Oh, okay.
Or the fridge space.
It's intensive? I don't know.
It takes like big vats and then you have to then put it in the fridge. We didn't have the space.
To me, you just make coffee cold. Yeah, that's my knowledge of cold.
No, cold brew is overnight and everything.
Oh, really?
But
wow.
I suppose looking back, we could have done it, but we really created the cutest space ever. Like I have
even
photos
now,
of
you
it.
speak about it with love.
Oh, it's like I have photos of it. It's like it was the cutest space ever. It was like a safe space. I would go there to sit sometimes. It was really, really wonderful. I think we made certain mistakes. One of them being, in my opinion, not putting a small espresso machine so that people could like come and have a cappuccino there when Zoho was too busy, and then maybe taste cold brew to try it next time. A lot of the times in Zoho, to get people in the door, I had to give them what they wanted as opposed to what I wanted to serve them. Sometimes you have to put your ego to the side. And I think that's one of the main reasons why it didn't work. But it was a crazy time because we had our own issues at Zoho. I had no general manager at the time. I was really on my own. During that time, also Zoe, who was very, very integral to the growth of Zoho in the first 6 years, she was my kitchen queen, you could say. And a lot of the recipes today are attributed to her, but she left in just before 2016 or like around there. So all these things were happening at the same time, like losing my right-hand girl, like my partner in crime that had worked with me for 6 years, plus opening this new place, plus the Brown Hotel renovation. So it was like kind of too much. So in the end, it didn't work out.
How long did it last for?
You know, I don't remember. I tried the other day to look through financial records. I think it was like a year, something
That's
like that.
a long time.
Or maybe a bit less than a year. I don't exactly remember. And I changed accountants like 3 times since then, so I couldn't find the paperwork. But I think it was like maybe a bit less than a year.
That's a pretty long time.
Yeah. We tried to keep it going.
It was really a money pit, I'm guessing.
It was also that she was focused on using very specific coffee. So we essentially had to become importers. And the cost of it and the delays in the meches, in customs in Israel, it was too much to bear. Like we just didn't have the product sometimes. So it really was the best coffee in Israel, in my opinion.
I'm sure.
But we just couldn't get the supply right, the cost right, everything. It just didn't work in the end. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a major failure. That was also a major financial burden on Cafe Xoho because we lost a lot of money. So did the girl.
Yeah.
Like everybody lost money. But it was like a huge financial burden on both sides. Yeah.
Are you like taking on an emotional roller coaster with this story? And I thought there was more to the types, and I'm like, really, I need to move it myself.
We also renovated the space. We even brought there like a toilet. Like we brought there like plumbing and everything, and like a connection for a sink and everything. And really, those things cost a lot of money. And in the end, didn't work out. But I have beautiful photos that I can show you.
We can share them on maybe the show notes, or we'll share them on social if you're comfortable sharing them. I mean, I would love to see it.
Yeah, sure.
And there is because I remember in Tel Aviv there is a place that sells. I mean, it sells coffee, but it does sell very good cold brew. There's like a famous place in Tel Aviv.
There's a few that I love. I love Edmund Coffee. Their cold brew is amazing. Wild Dog, I think it's called. There's a few good ones. I'm not selling cold brew at Xoho right now, but it's definitely on my radar because I'm a huge fan of cold brew. Love it. Yeah.
When it came to closing that business, was it kind of a mutual agreement with yourself and the partner, or was it challenging?
We just both understood it wasn't making money.
Yeah,
so I don't remember the exact details of just how mutual it was, because obviously there was upset a lot on her part as well. But my business could not support it anymore. Like it was just like not making money. Yeah.
Wow.
It was hard.
That's really hard. Have there been any years in your business that you've been like, oh, okay, we're okay now?
No.
Really?
I don't rest on my laurels. Like,
okay.
is that
That's
the
coming,
phrase?
Yeah. That's coming more from you than from kind
There
of...
isn't a day that goes by that I don't think today has to be the best day for Cafe Xoho. Every day, even when I'm not there. I try very, very hard not to be there on Friday so I can be with my family. I'm in touch. They can call me for sure, but I try not to be physically in the space. And I'm like this the whole day. It's hard for me to be present with my family because I know Friday is like a very, very, very busy day for Cafe Xoho. It's like the day, like Saturday used to be before we became kosher. And it's very hard for me to relax. Not because I don't trust my staff, but because it's a day where so much can go wrong because it's just so busy. And there's a lot of things. So yeah, that's difficult. Yeah.
You're a perfectionist?
Yeah. That's the problem.
Okay. And you've known that about yourself?
Yeah.
Do you think as a business owner it's kind of a challenge to be a perfectionist?
I think it's partly what has made Xoho get to where it is, but it's also what's also stopping Xoho from getting to where it could be.
That's beautiful.
Because if I don't learn to let go, there will never be growth. I will always step in to put out the fires. I will always, and then the place just won't grow under the management of the great people that I've chosen to be managers. So I really do need to learn to delegate and to be less perfect, because in the end, it is a people-based business. And if a customer wants to come and think that we're supposed to be robots, so then they're wrong, because it's in the end, we try our best to hire good people and to give a good product, but it's all handmade. It's all served by people, not robots. So of course, things can go wrong, and we do our best to right the wrongs as quickly as we can.
What does growth look like to you?
First of all, my husband told me the other day that he'll divorce me if there's any kind of like physical location growth in
really?
Xoho.
Is that something you'd want to do?
I think that there's a huge potential for Xoho to do that, and in my dreams that would happen, but it won't happen until I'm not involved in the daily logistics of the place. Like at all. I have to be very far removed from that. And that's still a process. Growth in the current location is possible, and we're working on it now. We just started opening evenings. We're open till 10 o'clock at night during the week. We're going to start bringing in events. I just hired a wonderful community manager who's been our customer since day one.
Oh, wow.
So she's going to start doing like mommy meetups and poetry slams, story slams, music nights, bagel rolling activities for kids, like
That's
all
amazing.
these things. So those are the reasons why I opened Xoho, and I've been so far removed from that for a long time. So that's kind of exciting in that growth. So catering, bris, bar mitzvah, weddings, whatever. I want to tap into that because we can also do that. Our online store, which we're hoping will take over from like the Walt sales, like to sell more of our cakes and products like from our direct online store, to develop our own delivery system. There's endless growth for Cafe Xoho. Wow. I would say we're operating at 50% capacity now easily, because there's so many areas that we can grow. I just haven't had the energy or people to do it since the start of the war. And as you can imagine, as a mother and business owner, it kind of just feels like we're operating on like a just get through it right now. But I'm hoping soon that we'll be able to see some growth.
And sometimes that's okay, I think. I think as business owners, you always want to grow. Sometimes it's not possible.
Yeah. But I never rest on my laurels. I never just say, okay. Like I've never ever done that ever.
But I think for you to say,
Xoho.
listen, there's a war. I've got a baby who needs a lot, she's 5 now.
She's turning 5, in November.
Right, who needs and should have a lot of attention.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to kind of say, now we'll just continue.
I definitely do things like more slowly now, because I believe in doing things slowly and correctly. So things take a lot longer now, and I have immediate priorities in my mind, which I follow very easily. So things just take longer.
That's something I think you learn as a business owner, is that there's so many things you can always do.
So many things.
And that's why you start a business. But actually, it's so much better to focus on doing things excellently.
Yeah, and life won't end if it takes me an extra month to get to whatever that thing was.
But that comes the maturity of being a business owner.
I just don't have a choice. Like yesterday, I thought I was going to be doing XYZ, and then something popped up, and that thing was more important.
That was your whole day.
I knew it was more important, and then that was my whole day.
Wow.
And that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're so welcome.
I want to ask you a few quick fire questions before we finish. What's your favorite drink at Cafe Xoho?
Oh, I'm like so simple. I just like to have espresso. Yeah. I don't drink any of the fancy drinks.
I'd imagine you're mostly caffeine at this point.
I really love our new iced tea. It's like an iced peach tea. So if I don't have the espresso, I'm going for the iced peach tea. Yeah.
And your favorite bagel or meal?
That's complicated. It depends on my mood. I'm actually not a bagel person. How sad is that? I really love the market salad. I used to love our burrito so much from the bottom of my heart. So the burrito was my number one thing, but from the current menu, I just go for the salad. It just gives me everything I need. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
You've been
welcome.
wonderful. And I really recommend that everyone goes to Cafe Xoho. You now have a tour there, which is super exciting. The food is really, we've been going for a very, very long time. I say we, my husband, I remember us going during COVID with masks. Like, we really love it.
You had 5 questions. You asked 2.
I do.
Yeah.
What do you mean 5?
You said 5 questions.
Did I say 5?
Yeah.
Well, then I misspoke.
So you misspoke.
No, I said
All
5.
good.
I don't know why I said that.
Yeah. So you asked 2 questions. That's fine.
Oh my God.
It's good.
I just randomly said that.
I just wanted to check that. So
No, I just randomly pulled that number. I don't know why I said that.
because it's about 5, the podcast.
They'll edit it out. I don't know. In post, we'll deal with it. Okay. I don't have any more
He'll
questions.
cut this part out.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions. We'll do it. I'm going to do a BTS reel, so we'll do it for that.
Amazing.
I'm trying to think. I don't really have any more questions. Like, I don't have any more quick fire questions.
All good.
Okay. We'll make it work.
Okay. Because I knew he's editing it. I was like, I can.
No, you can say it. I don't know why. I don't know why I said 5.
All right.
I don't know what I was thinking. How would I say 5?
Okay.
Thank you so much. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of Cafe Xoho. I recommend that everyone goes along and tries. I really like the bagel personally, with the smoked salmon and the cheese. I went to New York recently, and they are just as good as yours. Yours are just as good.
Thank you.
I really like the chai latte personally, because I don't drink coffee, but you do a banging chai latte. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram at Cafe Xoho, one word with an X. We have a website. We're building our TikTok page now. Facebook, like
Amazing.
the usual platforms. We're very active on Instagram specifically. Yeah, I have a wonderful social media manager.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for listening to Failing Our Way to Success. Listen out for our next episode. And if you want to follow me, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram at Network with Helena, where lots of tips and tricks on networking, being a business owner, and juggling everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Failing Our Way to Success. If you would like more content from me, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram and Network with Helena for more networking tips, life musings, and honest perspectives on being a business owner. A reminder that failure is part of every single business journey, so don't feel discouraged.